Well, hello and welcome to Pick Up the Mic, Harvest Church's only official podcast. My name is Mike Reiner, lead pastor at Harvest. With me is Will Land, executive pastor at Harvest. Top shelf Will, because sometimes he breaks out the vocabulary on us. How you doing, Will?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, I don't watch our podcast much. Every once in a while, I'll listen to one just to see if we're doing okay.
I listen to all of them like a crazy person.
Well, I'm not sure we are doing okay, but one of the things I noticed, I look that because of where the cameras are, you can't see my eyes a lot of times. So if I look at you, you can see the side, but I'm often looking down reading. So I'm going to look right in the camera. Hello. Actually, I want to jump into pigs because I'm thinking of pigs and property rights. So if a man came to your house and you had a herd of pigs.
Okay.
And he chased them all off and killed them and left them on the border of your land.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Call the authorities. That's theft. Destruction of property.
Then what? What do you think would happen?
He'd have to make restitution, maybe spend time in the clink.
Okay, so what if Jesus did it?
Ooh. Trick question.
Yeah.
He would run away before any authorities showed up.
He would fly. They would come. He would float up above him and go, ah.
So I guess you're asking, if it was Jesus, would he have done any wrong is the question.
Well, that is the story we have recently. We talked about it here on the podcast, and we had it already in a sermon, is Jesus caused, by sending demons into the pigs, with many witnesses to see that it happened, he caused an entire herd of pigs to run into the water. Could have been 1,000 pigs. We don't know how many pigs, and die. He caused it.
But wouldn't Paul say that he didn't cause the demons to make the pigs commit? He gave them permission, but the demons did it. Wouldn't the demons be held responsible? I'm trying to think.
Are you a lawyer? Is this... Well, look, if Jesus, so the demons, okay, look at it this way.
Does Jesus cause me to sin? Or does God cause me to sin?
These are pigs. Tempted? These are pigs. Pigs can't sin.
Well, I'm talking about the demons who killed the pigs.
Well, demons always sin. But they said to Jesus, can we go in the pigs? Jesus, I think a good lawyer could argue that Jesus was liable because he could have foreseen, being God, that this would result in the pigs running to their death. And he could have said, no, you may not go into the pigs. In fact, I'm going to send you into some kind of snow gnat somewhere in the Arctic where you can't hurt anybody. But instead, I don't know if there is such thing as a snow gnat. If you ever get stuck in the Arctic and gnats are bothering you, those are snow gnats. He could have sent them anywhere to the ends of the universe. But they said, can we go into those pigs? He said, yes. Kind of as a object lesson, as a teacher's, just a visual aid. And all the people saw them go into the pig. Well, they saw the pig's reaction. I think Jesus is culpable for the death of those pigs, is what I'm saying. Well, can you argue not that he didn't know?
Yeah, I think I can.
Does he not know all things?
Of course he knows all things. But so you're back to the argument, is God culpable for all sin in the world? No. Is Jesus the man?
He
didn't kill the pigs.
But he knew it would happen when he sent.
But he knew all things.
Yeah, but he could have sent them somewhere else and kept the pigs safe. Like, he didn't send them into babies. He could have sent them into babies. What are you going to say? He's going to send them into babies and the babies are miserable and you're going to say it's not his fault? Sure, it's his fault. If he sent them into...
He didn't send them. He gave them permission. I think there's a difference.
If he gave them permission to go into babies, it would have been his fault. He's culpable. He sent them into these pigs and he knew what would happen, and the pigs all died. And yet, he didn't offer any restitution to the owners of the pigs.
Does Satan have permission to have authority over principalities on the earth?
What are you talking about?
Don't we see in the story of Job that God gives Satan permission to have what little
I'm not
power
disagreeing
he
with
has?
that. But in Job's case, he didn't know what was happening. And all he knows, a windstorm knocked over the houses and raiders came and attacked. He has no idea what's happening behind the scenes. So he's not going to make the case, at least not at that point. God probably told him later. But in this case, we have Jesus interviewing a guy saying, I'm legion because there's many of us demons inside this guy. And he says, and they ask him, can we send us into those pigs, not to outer darkness or something? So he sends them into the pigs and they die.
He says, sure.
And there are witnesses.
Yeah.
They needed his permission or they would not have entered the pigs. They could not have.
Yeah, but so all you're doing is giving descriptors of God to incarnate God as Jesus.
So
and I would say Jesus is culpable for the death of the pigs in the same way that God the Father is culpable.
Wait a minute, though. There's a difference. Jesus is a man. He has a human form.
Well, yeah. So
is he not subject to the laws? He kept all the laws of Moses. And in the laws of Moses, if your negligence causes your beast to die, your neighbor's beast to die, you have to pay him back. Or if you do something to kill your neighbor's beast, you have to pay him back. He did something that killed a flock of pigs, or not a flock of pigs came flying by.
A murder of pigs?
A gaggle of
pigs? I don't know what a multitude of pigs is called.
A pig coven. It was a herd of pigs. They all ran down. He didn't make restitution. So, obviously, if this were in our litigious society, there would be that.
Oh, I'd get him out of it.
That bald guy would come and said, we'll get money for you. Any prophet come and kill your pigs, we'll get money for you. You pay us nothing unless Edgar Schneider would come.
I used to caddy for him.
In the name of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I will come, because he's the official ambulance chaser of the Pittsburgh Steelers, isn't he? Didn't he buy that? How low have the Steelers fallen? You caddied for him?
Yeah.
Did he tip well?
Well, this is public. No. But he often had friends who did.
So I want to go. I have a friend, this is hearsay, who tells me that Edgar Schneider is a cheapskate on the golf course. And it might be the friend sitting next to me. Edgar Schneider, sue me. Come on, bring it on, Edgar.
Please don't sue me.
Sue me, not him. Sue me, Edgar. No, he won't sue me. I don't have any pockets. He's right. He'll take one look at my total value and go, you're not worth my time, chump. You chump. But I think he might take it on if he could say, did a prophet come by your house recently and kill all your animals? Well, we'll get money for you. In all seriousness, although that is a serious question, Jesus did not do anything for them. And I'm sure Jesus did right. Okay, if it was the right thing to give money to the pig owners, he'd have done it, but it wasn't. God owns those pigs. I think that's the superseding law that my friend Will kept missing.
I didn't miss it.
You missed it. You didn't say it. So is God owns the pigs?
I know that's the answer because I listened to the sermon.
Why did you say it?
But I was taking a different route.
Oh, okay. You thought you had a better answer.
You
still think you have a better answer?
I still think I have a better answer.
You see how stubborn he is? This is what I have to work with. Me and Cruiser have to put up with this guy all the time. That's the talent. If he didn't have talent, we'd get rid of him. Okay, so the pigs belong to Jesus. In the Bible, he says, all the beasts of the forest are mine, and I own the cattle on 1,000 hills. So beasts, which like the deer in the forest, they belong to him. So if you don't hit a deer because it doesn't come across you, stinks to be you. You should have asked God to send one of his deer in front of you. And then, or you're just a bad shot. Or you're impatient. I'm all those things. Because he owns those deers and the bunnies that you like to shoot and kill and skin and eat, all the friendly little bunnies with their fuzzy tails that you personally like to kill.
I killed a number of those fuzzy little bunnies.
Poor
this year.
guys. They were bouncing around looking to give out Easter eggs to kids, and there he is blasting them away with his gun. It's nothing but rabbit carnage with this guy. But they belong to God. They're God's bunnies, and he lets you have them. But if you own beef cow, he owns the cattle too. Those belong to him. So what else belongs to him? If the market crashes and you lose everything you have, in one sense, you lost it, I don't know, in an earthly realm, but in another sense, it was God's money, and he doesn't have to apologize to you that he just took it all away from you.
Correct.
And he doesn't have to pay you back.
Correct. Didn't have to give it to you in the first place.
Didn't. So private property is a very interesting concept because it's in the Bible. The way we interact with private property is different from the way he interacts.
Right. We need to respect what God has given each individual.
Thou
and
shalt not
envy
steal.
it.
Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not covet.
It's 2 of the big 10 is not stealing, and not only not stealing, but then not wishing God had given you what he gave the other guy.
Do you ever covet?
Oh, of course.
What do you covet? This ought to be good.
Covetousness. It's an insidious one. It's in almost everyone I've ever met.
Well, sure. I think you can make an argument logically that it's the original sin somehow is coveting. Well, at least the lie that was given to Eve. If
Make you like unto God.
Yeah, and not only the object, God doesn't want you to be like him, but the actual sin was to want something you couldn't have, the fruit. So it was double. It was coveting of the heart and coveting of the eyes. That fruit looks good, you can't have it. Was part of the play. The Bible says it looked good to her, but also he has something and he doesn't want you to have it, knowledge. So it was like a double covet move, and she bit on it. Pardon the pun. That was accidental. And I thought of it, I would have said it though. That was a bad pun, but I like it. So coveting in the heart, it could be an original sin.
Yeah, and that gave me time to think about your question. So I was trying to buy time, so
you're
bought
welcome.
it for me. Yeah, I mean, what I have coveted at times in my life, other people's careers, people that feel like you're smarter and wiser and better than, or they're doing better than you by some material standard, which you shouldn't necessarily use as a measure of success anyway. So I've had those struggles in the past. I've coveted relationships back before I was married, wanting to be married. I've coveted a lot of things. Having children. I've coveted peace in my life when sometimes life wasn't so peaceful. Wait a minute.
Had
peace.
I think I might be a little confused, and maybe you can help me.
Okay.
It's starting to sound you're talking about longing for things.
Well, there's a difference.
What is the difference? Because can't you want
slip.
like I would love to have a soft ice cream right now.
And that's desire.
But I'm not coveting it.
You're not coveting it. No, I would say covetousness in each of the scenarios that I mentioned are when another human is involved, that
he has it,
and
you want it.
You think you'd be better off with it than him. You're owed it. He's not.
I see. Yeah, I think that is coveting.
Where like negative emotions towards
Thou
another
shalt not
human.
covet thy neighbor's wife.
Correct.
Or his position.
And can I make a plea to everyone out there?
Yeah.
As a top shelf thing, our society has lost the meaning of jealousy and started using jealousy as a synonymous term with envy or covetousness.
Okay, I'm ready for this. Let me get my notebook.
Everybody says, "Oh, he's jealous," right? Or I'm jealous. When you use the word jealous, I would argue that 98% of the time you hear someone say it, they mean envious.
Okay, so give me the distinction.
Envy is the same as covetousness. It's in the Big Ten as a sin, as something you ought not do. It's desiring something somebody else has or thinking you should have it and not them. That's envy or covetousness.
Okay. So what's jealousy then?
Jealousy is protection over something that is truly yours.
No, wait a minute. You just made jealousy always a good.
It isn't always a good.
It is or isn't?
It isn't
You
always
just
a
said
good.
protection from
But
something.
it can be a good.
Okay.
Like there is a way in which you can be an appropriately jealous father or husband.
Okay.
Or when people say the phrase, I'm jealous of my time, that would be an actual, not I'm saying it's a morally appropriate, that's an appropriate use of the word jealous. You're protecting something that's yours, your time. I'm jealous of my time. It's mine. I want to protect it from people claiming it.
Okay, let's look at it in the positive. You said jealousy is protection of what is yours. Let's look at this positively to help me think this through.
Like you have daughters.
Because I've never thought in these categories with these words. So I'm responsible to a certain point to protect what is mine.
Your children, your wife.
So my jealousy isn't the protection of it, is it? It's the passionate desire, isn't it, to protect it? Can I change your...
Yeah,
Can I
I'm
change
actually going to look
this?
it up right now.
Well, no, don't look it up because it's your definition, passionate, but isn't it a desire?
Yeah.
Because I could have responsibility to protect and not care. And then am I jealous?
It's wariness of losing.
Okay, don't change like that. You
Yeah.
just said it was protection of what is mine.
Yes.
But what if I'm responsible to protect something, but I don't care? Then I'm not jealous.
Then you're not jealous.
So it's really an emotion. It's not protection of what is mine. It's
correct.
It's a desire.
It's a desire
to protect what is
to protect
mine.
what is yours.
Okay.
And it's not, to a point, it's not unhealthy. And the reason this bothers me is because God the Father at several places in the Bible is described
as a jealous God.
As jealous.
Yes, and he wants to protect what is his.
God is never described in the Bible as envious or
coveting. Because I like that, because envious and covetous assumes
somebody else owns it.
A deficiency.
A deficiency.
You don't have it. He does. Now, to a certain extent, though, his jealousy, if you worship another God, he's jealous. Well, what he doesn't have is your worship. So is he coveting?
You tell me. I would say no.
Well,
I would say no
it's
because
something
he's God
he doesn't
the Father.
have, and he wants it.
Well, I would say it's owed to him. It is truly owed to him. Whereas when you're covetous of something, you're not actually owed.
So it is his.
It is his.
It's being stolen.
It's being stolen.
Okay, that helps.
That's where in my mind, that's where you draw the line.
Okay, so
right?
give me jealousy in its negative form.
Well, jealousy, which I agree, let's say it's the emotion, not the responsibility. Yeah, it can go too far, just like anything.
Does it go too far?
Yeah, you
so it doesn't go the wrong direction. It goes to the right direction and then goes farther.
Yeah.
So I want to protect it, but I'm trying too hard.
Well, I think of it like Lenny in Of Mice and Men strangling the puppies, but he wants to pet them.
But that was accidental. You can't go to Lenny and Marsman. That was, and first, we don't know if anyone reads in school today, so we don't know if they've even heard that. If they had,
some people are
they're
older
more
than me.
concerned whether Lenny is white or black, and is there a power dynamic between him and the bunny that makes him the oppressor? And Lenny, you can't help but like Lenny.
Yeah, I mean, there's malicious jealousy too, but yeah, we're overly controlling of a spouse or a child. Or,
okay, overly controlling is
it could be.
How
rooted.
about just controlling? Why overly controlling?
Oh, because there's some level of control that I think are good.
I don't want to control my wife.
You might want to contrrol the actions of your teenage daughter.
Oh, absolutely. I have
okay. So I said wife or children. Well, so I was throwing other scenarios in the mix.
I'm going to go a different direction from you there. I'll take that. I'll take your jealousy as an extension of what's good that can go too far, and I will see you, and then I will say that jealousy by your definition, is negative when it's on the wrong object too.
Well, yeah.
Because it can mix with coveting. The two can go together, can't they?
Well, it's just like yes, because it's just like love. It matters what the direct object is.
She's my best friend's girlfriend. She's my best friend's girlfriend. She's my best friend's girlfriend. And she used to be mine. That profound statement was a song from the Cars from back in the 1970s. And she used to be mine. She's not yours to protect anymore. You know, what was that thing they say? Let your girl go. I didn't say this, by the way. And if she stays with you, she loves you. If she leaves, kill her. No, I didn't say that.
I agree.
But that is the psychopathic mindset that causes some guys to actually kill someone.
Yes, be crazy.
And they would say they're jealous. Maybe they're not jealous, they're envious. Maybe they're coveting.
Right.
But also the jealous person who tries to control his wife so that she can never be exposed. No man can see you. You can't talk to anyone. You can't have friends.
Yeah.
That's not a positive, is it?
No.
And yet we use the word jealousy for that.
Yeah, and I think that would be an appropriate use of the word jealousy. Appropriate, not that the action is actually moral good.
Yeah, I don't know how we got here, but that was very interesting.
Yeah, well,
let's go back to private property, and we'll try to meld these two
I just
together.
want people to be more careful with the use of the word jealousy instead of envy. Just
you
say
people,
envy.
What he's
you
saying
almost
is,
always mean envy.
You people out there have been misusing jealousy, and he's had it with that.
Yeah, you probably mean envious.
Yes, you probably mean envious. So knock it off.
Yeah, because you're impugning God when you say jealousy like that all the time.
You are sinning against God. Boy, turn off this podcast now. It's getting worse for you.
And well, there's another lesson in here. We're way far afield, but I think this is good. Mike brought up, this is top shelf, but I can't help it.
This is why this is called bring up the mic and not bring up the will.
I can't help it.
This is where he would take us if you leave him
I can't help
untethered.
it. You brought up the idea that the direct object matters. And let me talk about the direct object. What are you jealous of matters in whether or not being jealous is good or bad. I would say that applies most often in our current society with words like love. When people say, love is good, man, you say, no, it's totally neutral. I need to know what is the object we're talking about loving before I can decide if loving it is good or not. Like loving your sin is not good.
Good point.
So it depends on what the object is. Hate isn't necessarily bad if you hate your sin.
If you hate evil.
Or if you hate evil. So, yeah. Anyway.
You should love the right things, hate the right things, be jealous of the right things, don't be jealous of the wrong things.
So, the direct object matters.
Gotcha.
All right.
So the question was, this all started, I remember, with me asking, do you covet? Because you brought up coveting.
Yeah.
And I said, do you covet anything? And you
I said, yes, a lot of things.
All people do. And I think generally that needs to be put aside. And anyone, it depends on situations what you covet. And I think if you do, there's certain things I don't covet that other people do, and then I'm tempted to be proud of myself. But that's because I'm a fool at times. In those moments, I'm a fool because I covet things that they don't covet. And mine are embarrassing. That's why I don't talk about them. But I'll tell you now, one, I covet other people's influence.
Say more.
Well, when I listen to podcasts, which I enjoy, and talk shows, I really love listening to language and people argue and discuss and debate and talk. I covet the fact that the host is able to talk to a big audience, and I'm sitting there listening and I can't.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I should be the one talking. How come he gets to talk?
I've had that before.
I have it all the time. I don't want to be a great preacher. I don't want to be a celebrity. I don't want everyone to know my name. Maybe somewhere in the depths of my soul I do and I don't know it, but I don't think I do. But I do want their platform. I sit here shouting. I feel like a flea shouting in the storm. We did a podcast recently where you and I together You pitched and I hit. Destroyed Andy Stanley's bad ideas.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. But nobody heard it except us.
Not nobody, but yeah, 500 people.
By nobody, I mean our gang heard it.
Yeah.
Here in our church, who I love, and they matter.
But nobody in South Dakota or
But I want everyone in the world, listen, you guys are thinking the wrong things about Andy Stanley. I want to set you straight. Maybe that's why I am a preacher. I feel like I've got to get it out. But it can turn to pride and coveting. And so I have to give that up, and I gave that up long ago.
I've had that.
I gave it up. I gave it up on purpose because the coveting is there. I had to realize, and competitiveness too. I covet winning.
I legitimately thought I should be the president of the United States in my late 20s, and then I was thinking of routes of how I would get there.
That's why they don't let you run in your 20s, because everyone in their 20s knows everything. So what was?
But I appreciate what you're saying.
Now you have to marry the right. Well, you married a beautiful woman. I think you have to go there.
Yeah, I need to become state senator, then federal congressman, then federal senator, and then I could be Kamala Harris and be running for president.
I don't know if you know, but that she's from. She went into she started in San Francisco, but then she went to the Chicago way and Obama way. You don't have to do any of that. Just go to Chicago.
Yeah, but I'm not black or a woman.
But just do it the Chicago way. They cheat. They arrange all the elections in. I'm telling you, that's what's happening now.
Anyway,
Chicago.
But I work here now.
Chicago has had arranged elections for the last 100 years, and the Dailies used to run it. All Irish. The Pritzkers run Illinois and Chicago now, and. There is no such thing as an election in Chicago. There's no such thing, and there hasn't been. And I'm serious here. This is not hyperbole. There's no such thing as an election in Chicago. Everything's arranged. And when Obama came in, there's no question he brought Chicago with him. He started using the IRS to go after his enemies. He started weaponizing the government because he thought like a Chicago guy. There is no such thing as morals. There's just winning, and that's what we're seeing now too. The Kamala and the entire White House is being run like D.C. is Chicago. So if you want to be the president, go to Chicago and cheat.
Well, I'm just saying I identify with what you're saying about why isn't the whole country listening to me? I've had that thought.
Well, I don't care if they listen to me. In other words, I don't want them to think I'm important. I want them to think I'm right. And I don't care that they think I'm and I don't care if they think I'm right.
Splitting a hair there, but I get it.
I don't care if they think I'm right. If I hear a podcast person say what's exactly right, I go, good. My coveting goes away. Finally, someone said it the right way. I covet their influence. If they'll say the right thing, I don't have to get all angsty. I feel like calling up some of my favorites like Jason Whitlock and saying, why don't you say it like this? But he doesn't listen to me. I'll send him emails telling him how to say it better. Every once in a while, he'll give me a little answer, but not much. He doesn't listen to me. These people don't listen to me. I'm tired of it. But no.
It's because who are you?
You know what? The question is, who am I? And the answer is, I am whatever God wants me to be and no more. And I have learned the word of God actually is, and I'm sharing mine and you shared yours. And I want you to know the willingness to see these things in your flesh isn't bad because God shows you through his word how to discipline yourself. And the discipline of the word of God is you just never despise small things. Psalm 131, my heart is not proud, nor is my mind set on things far beyond me. But my soul is quieted like a weaned child at his mother's knee. Now, I don't know which translation that is, but that's the answer, is don't worry about the big things. Don't worry if they don't all get it right. Do not call conspiracy what they call conspiracy. Do not fear what they fear. It's okay. If it's okay. God knows. God has it. And that brings us back to private property rights. God owns everything, so it's never wrong if he takes it away. It's his. He wants us, because we're like him, unlike the animals, he wants us to copy him and have private property. But in order for us to have it, he has to give it to us because we can't create ourselves. All we can do is take stuff he has and build with it. So he gives us stuff and he says, no, I want you to behave with private property like I do, in a holy way. Don't love other people's stuff. Share your stuff, and I want you to do it freely, not by the law. Just be good with your stuff. Those pigs are his pigs. And if he takes those pigs away, people say, well, I have a great loss, to which that's true. But great loss in our life is as an opportunity to turn to him and say, God, why did you take those pigs away from me? Or he may say, well, I'm not going to answer you. He may answer you. He may say, well, you were starting to get fat and because you've been so successful and you eat too much pork. Or it could say, I wanted you to pray to me and you've ignored me because of my blessings. He might answer you. He might not answer you. But the point is you can trust him because everything you have, he gave you. And in this life, we should respect private property. We should pay our debts and do our best. But we shouldn't love our stuff. It's really all borrowed. Everything we have is borrowed. Everything belongs to God. And so God showed that one man was worth more than 1,000 pigs. That one man. God values humans above all animals. And this can be hard for Christians because really love of animals is natural to many. But a culture that demands loving animals and not being cruel to them is a Christian idea. But now that we live in a godless culture, there's no barriers on that. And they think, well, humans and animals are worth the same. And then they say, no, humans are worth less than animals. There's people who write books called, The World Without Us, which talks about how great the world would be if there were no humans on it. And there's people who are going to court to try to get rights for dogs and monkeys, right, as if they have human rights, which they do not. We adopt our animals instead of owning them. And we have to see animals are property. This gets some people mad at me because they think, well, aren't we supposed to love animals? Again, the word love is a difficult word. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between loving an animal and loving a human?
Well, you have to have them in their right order. This idea of rightly ordered loves, you can't. There's a hierarchy of loves, and loving of a human has to be higher in order, in quality, than the loving of an animal, because a human is higher in his godlikeness than an animal is.
Yes, that's exactly right. And if you have a love for an animal that is like a love for a human, and it begins to express itself that way,
you're training yourself in a wrong
It's an
pattern.
abomination.
Yeah, it's a bad pattern.
It's an abomination. I do understand. Well, let me say it this way. To properly love a dog, and this comes from a dog lover, and that puts me in the majority. I think most people are dog lovers or potential dog lovers. There are some who don't, but most people do. They recognize the value of a dog. Is to treat it like a dog, which means you have to train it a little bit. How much? As much as you need personally to get it to make you happy. And so that's a very selfish love. Some people, and they're few, but I know them, are very patient about dogs going to the bathroom inside the house because of their love for the dog. Most of us are very impatient about that. And, and some can argue, how do you train it? And, I was taught as a kid, put the puppy's nose in it when he makes his mistake, pat him on the butt, and throw him out the door to show him you go outside. Now, your family might do it differently, and I don't care. The fact is, dogs learn quickly. Dogs start going to the bathroom in the right place, and we love them more, and they love us because they're dogs. Teaching them not to beg at the table, to wait till after we're done eating, then they get scraps. You might say, well, I don't care if they beg. That's fine. The point is you're teaching the dog to love you, and you have to train it to whatever point that means. Then the dog becomes a very enjoyable thing to you, right? And you could say, I thank God for this dog who's all these things to me. But when you begin to treat the dog and say, well, dogs are better than humans. And I know that impulse. I hear people say it, dogs are better than humans. What are they really saying? They're not really saying dogs are better than humans.
They're saying I don't like humans.
I don't even know if they're saying that. I think they're saying I'd rather live in a world of fear.
Ooh, that's a big insight.
I think it is.
I'd rather live in
a world of fear of man, because I've been hurt and I'm angry and I'm bitter and I don't want people to hurt me anymore. I'll just keep my dog and my dog won't hurt me. And then you start to ask stuff for the dog can't give you. You'll lie to yourself and say the dog does. Oh, the dog loves me. Look how much he loves me. He really doesn't love you as much as you think he does. He loves you like a dog can love you. In my house, I'm the alpha. Whenever we have dogs, I'm the alpha. And even when I was a kid, and I guess because it was important to me that the dog listened to me, I forced the family dog to listen to me in Florida. And when he would run away, my mom would call me because I was the only one he'd come back for. And that's because he made me so mad when I had to go get him, I would... Can I say this in public? I would cause him a lot of physical pain.
Hey, there you go.
And I would
That's
yell
good.
at him.
Yeah.
And so Shaggy always listened to me. And so I have that relationship with the dogs. So I know they're going to come to me. But I also know that if I were taken from the face of the earth, they wouldn't whimper once.
They'd
when I
latch
come
on to
home,
whoever
they're
next.
very happy to see me. And I'm sure I'm a familiar smell to them. And they want their biscuits, which I've trained them to love me for. I give them dog biscuits all the time. But if I start expecting that the dog's going to love me like a human does, and people do this, I want you to know if that's you, God has something better for you. Because the dog doesn't love you like another, and you have a need that you're hiding from. You need human love.
In a more particular scenario, but it's exactly in the same vein that you're talking, right? Hiding from a need or trying to fill a need that an animal can't and ought not try to fill. I mean, I know several young women in my age group that have replaced their innate desire to have children and foregone that and just tried to fill the emotional void with having fur babies.
Happens all the time in America now.
I know a bunch of them. They refuse to have children, but they have that same longing they can't put their finger on, and so they pour
but
that
you're
into
psychoanalyzing
dogs.
them, and they would say to you,
I'm much better off.
No, they would say to you, who are you to say that I'm satisfying that feeling? I just like dogs.
I'm me, and that's my opinion. I'm the one who's
so
saying
there's
it.
a book called What to Expect When No One's Expecting. One of my favorite books that I've read in the last 20 years. And it's not a Christian book. It's a book written by a journalist about demographics and how no one's having babies.
Okay, what to expect when no one's expecting.
And this was long before Elon Musk started talking about how we need more kids. And he opened my eyes, this is about 15 years ago, I think, to the fact that the world population's decreasing. And it's a very well-written book. He's a journalist, so he knows how to do it. But one of the case studies he gave, and I think it was Arlington, Virginia, one of these suburbs. There are suburbs of D.C. that are, to use the word Tony, they're very wealthy. They're wealthy because people are filled with government money and government jobs. And they live in tight quarters, but it's not unsafe tight quarters. Nice towns. Very expensive, but they're using our tax money. And so young, liberal adults living there, and that what they're doing is they're getting married, a lot of them, but they're not having children.
Yeah, there's an acronym for them.
You're talking about dinks, double income, no kids, but these are a worse kind of dink. They are government dinks. They really, I'm serious. It's our tax money. Yeah. And this really expanded under Obama too. He increased the number of jobs in DC huge, which helped to turn Virginia voting, but it also drains us. And it, I mean, if you go to Arlington, Virginia, and drive around, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
But what he pointed out was Toys R Us and Babies R Us cannot survive there because they don't have them. But they have vacation places for dogs, spas for dogs, hotels for dogs, doggy stores, everything you want for dogs. And everywhere you go, people have their dogs. And it's obvious what's happening. And I agree with you. I agree with your opinion, and it's my opinion too, that what's happening is people are using dogs to replace the children. And one thing that's a beautiful thing is when you have friends, as soon as we got married, it wasn't long before we had a baby. Couple of years, and so we were always human people. We had cats and we've had dogs, but we always had humans. But we've had friends who just put that off and they get a dog. And I love dogs and I love people who love dogs. But let me tell you, for the younger generation, we don't want your dumb dog on vacation with us.
No.
They bring, what about the dog? Can the dog come? And then we have dogs. Everyone's got dogs on planes now. I can't leave Foofy at home. Yes, have someone house sit. But you have people, what you're saying is, I have a raging human need for society, and I've made this, and the dog doesn't care. The dog doesn't care. You think the dog loves me. The dog has been trained by its nature and by how you treat it to lick your face and wiggle its tail. But it doesn't love you like a man, like a woman, like a human. It's just a dumb dog. And I love dogs, but and then here's what happens, because they're Christian. Even Christians fall into this. Their dog has to be here. Their dog has to be there. Both my daughters love dogs. I actually have 3 daughters, but 2 of them are married. And the one who's not married hates dogs and apparently hates husbands, and she's never going to get married. But the ones that are married, they love their dogs. Oh, they love their dogs so much. Then they had a baby. Them dogs were out of the house.
That's where I'm at in my household right now.
I mean, boom.
Yeah, you want to get a better perspective on owning dogs. Have a baby, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm not sure I have the time for this dog. If
the young liberals of Arlington would start having babies,
the dog takes his rightful place very quickly.
And they would all become centrists. They'd go from being left-wing politically to moderates, because all of a sudden they'd realize, I'm responsible for a human, and we can't keep living in this welfare state that we're creating where we just mooch off of society. We have to create a better society. People with kids are generally more conservative, and there's a reason for that. But regardless of the politics, what I'm getting at here is animals matter because God made them, and they're amazing. I love animals. Like this animal here, this lion.
I love bunnies.
I go to Tractor Supply because I like their toy animals. I saw one, I thought it was cool, and I put it in my car, and then the kids loved it. Then I realized these look real. Not like, you can go to Michael's and get them, and the kids don't know the difference, but I do. They don't look as good. This one particular brand, I'm not going to sell it because they're not paying me, but the brand they sell at Tractor Supply, and then I just like them. And
it does look like a real lion.
And I got an alligator on my dashboard. And then I'd start to buy them when I have grandkids with me, and I put them in my office at home, and I wouldn't let them. They could play with them, but they couldn't take them out of the office, so they became coveted. But they're beautiful. I love animals. I love everything about them. They show the glory of God. But every lion on the planet, if God said to me, Mike, I'm going to pick one person at random from your church, and either that person dies or every lion on the planet dies, all the lions on the planet are dead. That person dies or every dog dies from now and forever, I'd say kill the dogs. And you don't have to agree with me. This is what the scripture says. We are made in the image of God. We are so much more valuable than the animals. It does not diminish animals that we're more valuable. It diminishes men if you raise them up. It diminishes us. They were made as a gift to us. The fact that you can love and not be cruel and care for and manage well the animals in your life and have them be infinitely less valuable than every human in your life. You lose nothing. The imbalance we have is you can't go to the circuses have gone out of, you can't have a circus because somebody says the elephants and the camels don't like to be chained.
They're sad.
Yeah, and the elephant is not sad. The elephant's a dumb elephant. And I've been to India or Thailand, and I'm going back, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it again. They have this elephant park. It's so cool. They've taught the elephants to paint pictures, and they paint real pictures right in front of you. Now, they don't know it's a picture. They just do what they were taught. Then they let you ride the elephants. Long ride for like an hour through the jungles. It's so cool. And they're chained at times and roped at times, and they're trained. And the elephants are not crying on this walk. They don't scream out in pain. They'll even make those other noises they make, right? They'll do that.
I was going to do it.
And what they do is you sit up, you're way up high, and you have a friend, you sit there and boom, 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 moves real slow. And they then way up in the trees, there's a stand, and there's some Thai person sitting there selling you food, bananas, whole bundles of sugar cane, whatever. You pay them, they give you the food, and the elephant takes it from you. Now, if you're like, whoa, it's coming to get it. So if you want to make it last, you got to hide it behind. And there's nothing cruel about this. There's nothing cruel. In fact, it's kind of cool because humans and elephants are actually interacting in a way that the elephant seems dang happy. He's not bothered by you on his back. Trust me, he doesn't know you hardly weigh anything. And there was a time when elephants were used for labor, not so much anymore, and for war. I don't think you want to be a war elephant. Horses can be used for labor. It's not cruel. You'd say, but isn't it cruel to chain them up? Who wants to be chained up? A human doesn't want to be chained up. The elephant probably doesn't care. When he does care, you know it. He pulls on it and tries to get away. But you might want to train him to be content there.
That's why you have him chained up. You don't want him to get away.
Well, did you know if you chain up your dog for so many hours in Armstrong County, you could be breaking the law, even if your dog's happy. And this is because we've lost the ability to tell the difference between an animal and a man.
I think
an evolution is the justification.
Yeah, man, we are touching the third rail in this.
Well,
episode,
Jesus drowned. This is the part I'm getting at. Jesus drowned 1,000 pigs. Well, I don't know if they're 1,000. Legion is a generalization for 1,000 soldiers. Yeah. In other words, you don't have to have 1,000 soldiers in a legion, but centurions are 100 soldiers, and legions are one step up.
Yeah, legionnaire.
So you've got the demon said legion. We don't know if there were 1,000 demons, but lots o demons, lots o pigs. Jesus unceremoniously dispatched the pigs to death, and he didn't compensate anyone, and he did not do wrong. But he freed one man, and that's the math that we see. He does not apologize. He doesn't say pigs are bad either. He says Jews can't eat pigs because they're unclean, and that ceremonial uncleanness has nothing to do with the quality of their meat, by the way.
It's fabulous.
It could be a very clean meat. It's because he didn't, to show his holiness, he didn't let Jews eat animals that ate dead things. And they eat trash. They eat anything. They'll eat you.
They will eat anything.
So so you can't have shrimp or lobster or crab because the crustaceans eat anything that dies and you can't eat dog if you're a Jew. Pagans can. If you're not a Jew, it's not a sin to eat a pig. Because
until Peter has the vision, then everybody can.
Now the Jews can too, but they don't. And that's a problem for them because they're missing some great BLTs and pork chops and ham. So the cleanliness has nothing to do with the quality of the meat. But he killed them all knowing that they were a food supply for a village, probably. And he did it to free one man. That's the point. So where were you going to go with this when because I want to keep us centered to why we're talking about this. We're not just
30 minutes ago.
No, a second ago, you were taking this somewhere.
The animal conversation is
the animals.
We're going to have some. I think we're going to have some offense.
Well, I love animals.
I know
should
you
never
do.
be cruel to animals.
I know. I've been around animals,
and there are some people who won't eat them because they emotionally it hurts them to eat them. You know what I say to that? That's fine. That's absolutely fine. That
Romans 14.
If in your mind you think I can't stand I don't think I could eat my dog. I mean, I say I don't think that, but the Donner Party, if you're starving, you don't eat anything. The Donner Party in history, it kind of tells you that people will do things but I can't think of a situation where I would eat my dog. I could see a situation and this is going to get me in trouble, where I'm in another country where they do prepare dog, and if someone served it to me and I'd feel it was rude not to eat it, where I might eat someone's dog, but I wouldn't eat my dog. It would gross me out. And I'm not sinning to not eat my dog. And if you say, well, it grosses me out to eat any animal, that's fine. As long as we realize the Bible says you're free to eat all those animals.
Yeah.
If you don't want to eat them, don't eat them. I'm going to eat them. Not my dog. Not your dog. Not any dog. I'm going to eat the chickens. I love eating the chickens and the cows. Chickens feed the world, my friend. If we stop eating chickens, people are going to starve.
Yeah.
So we're going to offend people.
We're definitely going to offend people. I'll say... I don't even want to say it. Never mind.
You don't want to get in trouble, or you lose your train of thought?
I don't want to get in trouble. I know. I have a thought.
Come on, don't be a coward.
Though, while you might get in trouble in Armstrong County for chaining your dog up too long, one thing that's still on the books in the state of Pennsylvania, which I think is from our heritage of a Christian founding, a Quaker state, you still have the right to shoot your dog in Pennsylvania. So if somebody were to come up and said, you've chained this dog up too much,
you can go shoot it.
Literally in the books, the dog is your property, and it says shall not be infringed to use a firearm.
And I never want to change that law.
Yeah.
Now, I believe cruelty to animals is a sin. It's a sin before God, but they are property. And if someone is an evil man, he's going to do evil things with his property.
And he's going to stand in front of the judge at the end of time.
Yes, and I don't think you should. I have shot my dog. Actually, I didn't shoot him. I couldn't do it. I got a family member to shoot my dog for me. It was either that or take it to the vet and let him do a Dr. Kevorkian, charging me $250 while I watched the light go out on my dog. And I did that once, and I said, that's the creepiest thing that's ever happened. That never is going to happen again. So 2 other times I had to put a dog down. My latest was Max, my old dog, my good friend, and I really miss him, but he was to the point where he could not even walk. All 4 legs were gone. I'd taken as far as I could take it, and he was like 14, and it was time. So I dug the hole. I put him in. I gave him a biscuit. He was very calm. He couldn't get up. And I had someone shoot him. And then I buried him and planted a tree above him. And even though it's a maple, Max's genetic code is in that tree, so I call it a dogwood. Yeah, and that should be legal. But I'm not going to do that with my wife. If my wife, she can't walk. Dig a hole. Let's get some. I can't shoot my wife. Could you come shoot my wife for me? And then we'll bury her. No, because she's a human being made in the image of God. Only God can determine when she goes, not me. And he gave me a dog as private property. He did not give me a wife as private property, or any human as property. Okay. Well, I think we've went deep down the philosophical, theological trail there. But let me give some good news. Will there be animals? People want to know, will my dog be in heaven? And we have this kind of view of a place in the clouds where our dog runs to meet us. I don't think so. But we're not going to live in whatever we think heaven is for very long, because when the Lord returns, the Bible says there'll be a new earth, and we will have new bodies, and we will live in a place. And in that place, I believe, I can't prove it, but I think there's indicators in the Scripture that there will be animals. And for all I know, the same God who gave us the dog in the first place may give you back your dog then. And maybe have your dog forever. But maybe you don't like him as much because now you understand all things and you're not as insecure. And you're like, I don't really need you around anymore. If I go on a plane, you're staying home. You might be that person. I don't know.
But they're still nice. You'd probably think they're nice.
No, I'd love to have a dog. And I think, listen, before sin, did the animals listen to us? Very interesting text. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to this. Have you ever paid attention to what happens to animals in Genesis chapter 9?
Off the top of my head, I can't say yes.
Aha. I'm going to read to you from Genesis 9, verse 1. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. Lots of people. The fear of you and the terror of you will be on every beast of the earth, on every bird of the sky, and everything that creeps on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are given. Every moving thing that is alive shall be food for you. I give all to you as I gave the green plant. Now, there's a contrast here. This reflects when God created everything, gave them to Adam and Eve. And he said, I give you every green plant and all the fruit. There's a lot of question of whether there was death before they fell into sin. I think there was death before they fell into sin, but not human death. But I don't know really. But it does seem to me, I would guess they did not eat animals, Adam and Eve, before they fell into sin. That's only a guess. But I guess it because of the way that the scripture, he says there, I give them green and all the fruits and all the plants.
And then the skins. They're given the skins for their
Well,
covering.
yeah, there's obviously a dead animal when they're given skins by God. Now, this doesn't mean animals didn't eat each other or die, or at least die before that. I don't know. Is what I've thought a lot about that, and I don't have an answer. I'm not going to act like I do. But I don't think humans were eating the animals. But I also think if that were true, salad didn't taste as bad as it does or as boring as it does.
Yeah, it might taste like bacon or something.
That perhaps because the Bible says sin caused a curse to be on the ground. And it started growing things it didn't grow before, like thorns and thistles. And for all we know, the taste buds of Adam and Eve and the food were matched so wonderfully that doggone it, a piece of fruit was satisfying. Today, it's not as satisfying. I know there's vegans who say there is, but whatever. I ran into a young man in our church, and he was just looking bigger than ever. I mean, he's like 14 years old, 15 years old, something like that. I said, are you taller? He goes, no, but he says, for a while, I thought I was going to try to eat as healthy as possible, and I was eating nothing but fruits and vegetables. He says, then I started to work out and eat a lot of protein. And he was just beefing up. And, yeah, your body needs protein now, period. And protein, the best form of protein is an animal. You can say, well, avocados. Well, yeah, well, if you live in California, otherwise they have to be shipped in. So we want animals. It wouldn't surprise me before the fall if we didn't mind fruit and vegetables. But then notice this, when they get off, and I'm sure they ate them before they got on the ark. People were eating animals before they got on the ark. But when they got off the ark, he said, the fear of you and terror of you will be on every beast and on every bird. Which makes me wonder, is he implying that there was a time when the beasts and the birds, I mean, it's so normal to us to think, I can coax a dog or a cat to come to me. Maybe a bird if I work on it. But most animals are not going to hang out with me. You can get a bear to hang out with you and he'll eat you. I mean, I guess some people tame big animals, but most of the time it's dangerous to tame big animals because they will turn on you and eat. I just saw in the news every once in a while, every few years, you'll see something like this where the bear turned on its people and mauled a guy in front of an audience. You know, that's always fun. It's mauled its trainer. Bears are dangerous. You can't go outside like Dr. Doolittle and say to the birds, come here now. They don't come. They fly away as soon as they know you're there. Even bugs. Could it be that in the millennium, they're not afraid? Could it be they're not meant to be afraid of us? The only reason they're afraid of us is because of sin.
Yeah. I mean, if you've ever gone deep into a place where there's not very many people, often you can come across animals that you can be fairly certain have never seen a person, and they behave very differently.
They don't come up to you and eat out of your hand, do they?
They let you get very close. They certainly don't run away.
How close?
Well, I have a few personal experiences. So
have you ever went and picked up a sparrow?
I pet a deer on the rump in
This sounds very personal.
But I very slowly over time was able to get and got to
wait slowly over time.
Like I moved very slowly as this.
You couldn't march right up to it.
No,
because it would run away.
But a female deer and her doe let me get within arm's reach, and eventually I was able to touch her, and then she moved off a little bit. But I touched a wild deer.
This sounds wonderful.
Pretty crazy.
It's a beautiful moment. I think
pretty crazy, right?
I
just
I'm
didn't think
crying.
I could do it.
This is a beautiful
but I just read a
nature moment.
I just read a book about Antarctic expedition that went wrong. It's the greatest book ever written, but that's a separate topic. But they were dealing with penguins that
greatest book ever, but let's not talk about it.
It's amazing.
There's the Bible and then this.
And then this. That's really how I feel. Screw all the philosophy books. This is a really good book.
Socrates, Aristotle, morons.
Shackleton, awesome. Yeah, but they would walk up to these giant groups of penguins who had never seen a human before, and they'd just kill like 100 penguins at a time as they needed, because the penguins would just be like, "We don't know what you are," and let them walk right up and bop them on the head.
Well, so there's some animals that don't run away.
Yeah,
but probably in most societies, you won't get the seagull to come to you.
Right. Well, it's like once they know what a man is, they're afraid of man.
I think they know right away. I think if you found the right deer, but. Yeah, they're all startled around here because we're constantly marching in the in the woods, and
they know what we're all about.
Yes, but it probably those you had to take your time, you had to move, and they moved away from you.
Yes,
they're like,
let me kept closing the distance.
They would have left if you tried to be yourself. I think because I think the fear and terror of every beast is on you. But
anyway, I'm back to I think before this I'd never thought about it, but. Yeah, why would they be afraid of us?
Why would they? If we're not going to eat them, and they don't logic that out. God made them afraid, probably, so we wouldn't eat them all. He wanted to keep some alive.
You were talking about pets in heaven. I want to at least be able to Nerf gun hunt in heaven. Tag, you're it. I got you.
Okay, so you want to kill things and resurrect them again?
No, we don't have to do that. We could just use paintball guns or something. But I still want to pursue stuff.
Dude, I'm going to be while you're doing that. I'm going to be riding lions, sneaking up on you.
Hey, we're
gonna tag you. I gotcha.
As long as there's some sort of stuff like that.
I think there will be. There will be some sort of pursuit games. But I'm definitely want to be on the lion side. I want to be on a lion's back, a giant lion. Hunting you just for fun. I mean, I don't want to kill you. Oh,
fair. I'll have a very big Nerf gun.
You could be on the back of a bear.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Yeah,
we have some cool T-shirt. All right.
No T-shirts.
No, have you seen the T-shirts?
The actual bear. I don't need the T-shirt.
I was talking about. There's a T-shirt I've seen in the church a few times. It says "Context Matters" or something, and it's a T-Rex fighting a bear, or I don't know. It's funny, but
not to me. You're gonna have to work harder to make me laugh.
That's
Come
the
on,
T-shirt.
Man.
I just
How does that make
any
sense? There's a context matters with a bear and a. Okay, let's move on because Will's losing his mind now.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day. All right, so we're moving on. We're in Luke 9.
Luke 9. We're going from Genesis 9 to Luke 9.
We're in Luke 9.
So
we're at verse 18. We just fed the 5,000.
So Luke 9, just as a context, is really where the training of the apostles starts. Is where they get to do things. Mm-hmm. It's for the very first time, instead of watching Jesus. This is where at the beginning the 12 get sent out, and then they get to be the ones who feed the 5,000. That was last time. And then we're in verse 18, right?
Yep.
And here, so now that they're starting to work for him, you can actually see a change in the way Jesus deals with his guys. When he first starts, he's meeting people. He gets a bunch of disciples. He calls the 12. And then he shows them a bunch of things. Then he begins to teach them private things. Then he sends 12 out to let them do some things. Then he gives them a situation they can't handle. There's 5,000 people. He helps them. So he's training them step by step. And now part of his training is some of it's classroom and some of it is in action. You just did an inaction thing. You fed 5,000 people, and I showed you how you're going to relate to me when you do that. Now he takes them to a classroom section in verse 18. They just collected 12 baskets full, and the people, you got to think, are trying to figure out who Jesus is now because he's doing amazing things. And that is the subject of the class in verse 18. He says, "It happened that while he was praying alone, the disciples were with him, and he questioned them, saying, who do the people say that I am? So who's starting this discussion? Jesus. Who do the people say I am? He asked them. They're not asking him a question. And if Jesus asks you a question, it's the Socratic method.
Yeah, he's trying to teach you. It's not like he doesn't know.
Yeah, I don't know. He knows
he's getting you to think.
Yes. And they answered John the Baptist, who was already dead. But Herod, we already saw, thought John the Baptist maybe came back to life. Others say Elijah. That would be the great prophet who never died. He was taken up in a chariot. Others, that one of the prophets of old has risen again. So they're throwing darts and they're missing the bullseye. Now, you can't blame them. Who else would he be? A great magician, right? Larry Norman had a song. Some say he was an outlaw, right? Some say he was this. Some say he was a politician. And then he had another song called UFO. He's an unidentified flying object. But I
don't know this person.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He was an old Christian rock and roller. He's dead now. But if you don't know the right answer, you got to come up with something. I mean, if you were back then, Will, and you didn't know Jesus is the Son of God and the Messiah, but you saw him doing all those things, what would you guess?
Yeah, Elijah, Moses. It's like you get.
He's got to be a prophet.
He's going to be one of the two.
Or
he's
he's
the next
a new
big
prophet.
Yeah,
he's the next big thing. And so then he said, okay, that's what people say I am. So they're hearing the scuttlebutt. He says, but who do you say I am? Now, he's already setting up the idea that they can disagree with the mob. Boy, is there a good lesson there. We shouldn't just agree with what everybody says because everyone says it. There's a lot of safety in agreeing with the majority of people. But you should never do it. You should always think for yourself. And he says, who do you say that I am? And Peter answered and said, the Christ of God. Or Christ is the Messiah, the anointed one of God. That's Messiah. That's what that means. But he warned them and instructed them not to tell anyone, saying, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed and be raised up on the third day. Before going farther, notice he told them not to say anything. I got to tell you, Will, one of the things that gets me in the New Testament is I've never understood, and perhaps to be honest, I've never worked hard at figuring it out. And maybe I should. Why does Jesus constantly try to control the message like this? He tells one guy, go tell everyone what Jesus did to you. He tells the demons who say he's the Son of God, shut up, right? Don't tell anyone. He sends apostles out, tell them the kingdom of God is here. But then he tells people, he said, who do you say I am? He says, don't tell anyone. I am clueless. I am a pastor not up to the job right now. If someone asks me, why does he constantly try to control the message like this? I don't know.
Yeah, I would just be guessing. I mean, speculating from context.
Do you have a guess? I don't.
Sure. I mean, sure, I have speculation. He's to fulfill the prophecy, he's got to be rejected by the elders and the high priests. Like he just said that. But he also has to generate a certain level of fame as the potential Messiah, because without that, the high priests and the elders wouldn't have any desire to kill him. If nobody's following him, they're not worried about him, right? If he's just a crazy guy that nobody, is this the Messiah? Then there's no desire to kill him.
Yeah.
So there's he's got to have this balance where I'm just totally speculating. But
well, actually, I think there might be something to the mechanics of that.
He doesn't want to. It's not that he doesn't want to. As part of his sovereign plan, he can't convince the Jewish elders that he is God, which obviously he's capable of if he wanted to. But he also needs enough word to go out about him in the hinterlands that people are actually thinking he's the Messiah, that they want to put him to death as a blasphemer. Yeah,
so there's a practical advantage to having some not know he's Messiah and some do, but
he's always managing.
But he doesn't hide from the faithful.
No.
So he is always managing the communication plan. I like the way you put that. That's what he's doing, because he tells the woman at the well. She says, when the prophet comes, he'll tell all things.
I am he.
I'm him. And when he tells in John 9, the guy who he heals from blindness, the guy, he says something like, do you worship the Son of Man? I don't remember how he says it. And he says, tell me who he is, and I will. And he says, well, I am. You're standing before him.
Yeah.
So he tells some people. Here he confirms Peter.
I am the Christ.
I am the Christ. But then he hides from the crowds with parables to hide who he is. When they say he's him and want to kill him, he doesn't deny it early on in his ministry. So he's always managing the message, and I'm not sure why. When he comes in on, I'm just throwing all these out as they come to my mind.
Palm Sunday?
On Palm Sunday, he's welcomed as the Hosanna, the King of the Jews, by the masses.
And he affirms them.
That's right. When the Pharisees say, tell these people to stop saying this, he says,
no, if they stop, the rocks will start saying it.
Because it was prophesied he had to be welcomed as the King of the Jews. So he managed that, but he went on trial for being the King of the Jews, was found guilty of being found of saying he was King of the Jews. So in any case, I don't have an answer. I'm just raising the question. But now let's get to this last bit here. So he says, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes. Notice he doesn't have to be rejected by the Romans. It's important to catch this, that in God's story of salvation, the Jews have to reject the Messiah. The Romans don't get a hold of him until he's handed over. And then that's said very specifically in all the Gospels, that he's handed over to the Romans. The great insult here is that when the great Messiah finally comes to his people give him from the only godly nation, Israel, to the Goyim, to the Jews. They go ahead and they throw him to the dogs, chew him up, eat him up, kill him. And then they do. The Romans do what Romans do, and they killed him. So this is an insult both to the Jews and the Italians. If you want to be offended, there it is. The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and be killed and raised up on the third day. So here he plainly predicts his own resurrection, which the apostles don't hear. I mean, he says it plainly, to which I would have follow-up questions, you'd think. I mean, maybe he was so intimidating even to his apostles that we wouldn't ask. But I'd want to know, can we chat about this killed and raised up?
Hey, when you say raised up, I took that as
yes,
you were going to come back to life. Is that what you meant?
Could you expand on that, Jesus?
Was this a parable or a metaphor?
We'll talk to him like modern man. I hear you saying that
your name is going to be raised up because of...
Is this a metaphor? Is this a symbol for something else? Is that our team name, the raised up ones? So, and then he was saying, okay, so he lays that out, and then we just move on. We just move on in the text. Luke doesn't stop on that. I think you should stop, put a bunch of exclamation points, and let's sit and think about this a while. He doesn't. He goes right on, and he was saying to them all, if anyone wishes to come after me, and he was saying to all, is this all his followers or all in crowds? It seems contextually that he's just talking to his guys at the prayer time. There's no break, but I'm not sure. If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. Whoever loses his life for my sake, he is the one who will save it. Those two lines go with the next three, but they could keep your brain busy for a long time. If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself. You have to define deny self. Take up cross daily. You have to define that and follow me. Come after me and follow me are the same thing. So there's a condition to following him. We come to Christ by faith. But what does this deny himself, take up his cross? What? Deny yourself. I don't think it means to be unkind to yourself all the time. You go to the
ice
buffet.
Cream stand?
Well, I was thinking buffet. We both think of food. Isn't that something? And we go to the buffet with the family, and everyone's getting what they want. And what are you getting? Well, I'm getting
the gravel.
I'm getting kale. I'm getting those nasty red apples they put in the ice. And I don't like any of this stuff. That's why I'm getting it. Why I'm denying myself. Is that what he means? What, deny himself? He doesn't define it, except to say take up his cross, which is even worse.
Yeah, the instrument of destruction.
So what would be an equivalent today? Take up your
noose.
Take up your noose. In cowboy days, take up your
lethal injection.
Your lethal injection. You need to take your lethal injection and shove it in your veins. This is very violent. Take up your cross daily and then follow me. What? What? A self-denial sandwich is following Jesus. Now, we know there's joy in the journey with Christ, but how can it be joyful if you have to deny yourself and take up your cross? And what does that look like? How do you practically do that? There's a complete loss of self, but not like the Eastern mystics. The Eastern mystics' loss of self is nirvana, right? You stop being anything at all. They say nirvana is like your soul is a glass of water and eternity is a river. You just pour it out and you become one with everything. That's loss of self to them. That's not what he's saying here. We know we keep ourselves because he says whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. Whoever loses life, he will save it. So we're not going to lose ourself. In fact, we gain ourself, right? So you gain your selfhood. Therefore, what does it mean to live as one who's given up himself? You going to help me out here? I keep asking the question many ways. Are you doing like answering your email or something over there?
No, I was looking up a video clip that has to do with this verse.
Oh, is it good? Send it to him.
It is good. I was trying to send it to him. I'm trying not to import from other texts. It's very hard not to.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, because I think we need some help on this one.
Generally, you're always instructed with this text to, you have to put the old man to death. You have a nature. We talked about it in a previous podcast. By nature, you are an object of wrath. And we talked about how the word in your nature, the phrase in your nature means it's intrinsic in you. You can't choose to not be a fallen sinner, right? And in your justification, Christ being found in you, you still have to drag that old nature around. So just like Jesus is a man with two natures in one person, once we're saved, we're still dragging around.
Well, we're not like him with two natures.
Well, no, we're still, right, that's correct.
I saw what you're saying.
That was a mixing of a bad,
so erase that.
Imprecise language, since I'm not writing a theology paper. But you have your old sin nature with you. And I always take this phrase, deny yourself. It's James in James talking about lust. It's in your lust that sin is birthed from a seed. It's like you have to kill your old lusts that are still following you around.
Okay.
And so let the new man, let Jesus Christ in you through the Holy Spirit.
I do think you have to bring that in from somewhere else. I see your point. These ideas aren't all in there, but the answers are in the scripture. You're saying since we are sinners.
We are sinners.
One thing you cannot trust to take you the right way is you.
And your heart.
But you can trust Christ.
Who's now in you.
But to receive him requires total surrender, not partial.
Yes.
I'm adding that part because he says you must deny yourself.
And we talk about that with the ordinances, which again we covered in a recent podcast. Baptism where it's
a picture of death.
You mystically
of the grave.
You died with him on his cross.
Mm-hmm.
Like you died with him, and therefore you rose with him when he rose.
So denying yourself is not the absence of life.
No, it's quite the opposite. It's killing the part of you that dooms you to death.
And then you receive the life of Christ.
It's receiving the life of Christ.
So if you want to follow him, the only thing in the way is you. If you want to be the captain of your own ship, you can't.
You can go ahead and ride that ship into the abyss.
And that That's very good. Thank you. That was a good answer for my brain because that makes the rest roll out. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. Because you're going the wrong direction. You're working for your flesh. You're working for Satan. But whoever loses his life for my sake, and that's an active, I'm still alive. I'm not dead. I'm not dead, but I live as a dead man, but alive to Christ, right? Christ's life is in me. And again, like you said, for anyone who's new to the Bible, you're saying that's not in that sentence. It's not, but it's in other places in the Bible.
Yes.
That Christ's life is in you. Whoever loses his life for my sake, he is the one who will save it. So there is no salvation in running your own ship. You are doomed to death. But if you're willing to live in this world, dead to yourself and alive to Christ, following him, you will get salvation. And then he goes into 25. Very good. That set me right. For what is a man profited if he gains the whole world and he loses or forfeits his soul? Another translation says himself. Another one says soul. This says himself. So this isn't nirvana, dying to self. He's saying it's bad to lose yourself, to lose your soul. And if you get everything the world offers, but you lose your soul, well, this world doesn't last long for you. For whoever is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his glory. Ashamed. I'm ashamed of you. He's going to show up and there's going to be people and he's going to go, I'm ashamed of you. In the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. When he shows up, look how he puts this. They just decided that he was the Messiah and he calls himself the Son of Man. And if you're ashamed of me, boy, he elevates himself, doesn't he? He thinks he's important. He must be. When I come back, I'm coming in glory, and it's the glory of the Father and the holy angels. When I come back, first, they don't know that he's leaving, but obviously he is leaving because he has to leave to come back. When the Son of Man will be ashamed when he comes in glory, in the glory of heaven. He brings the glory of heaven. He's bringing the thunder, baby. But this I say to you truly, there are some of those standing here who will not taste death until they see the kingdom of God. Let's start in verse 27 next time because it really goes with 28. It's a good bridge. But it does show, all in all, will the life you live on this earth finds its value if it pays off when the Son of Man appears in the sky. You personally.
Mm-hmm.
And the path forward is a death to self. A death to self. And then all Christians should have, do you think all Christians live like this, or all people who call themselves Christians live like this? Or even believe this?
No.
I think that's a problem.
It's very difficult to live like this perfectly, so let's couch
Well, I'm not saying that we perform well, but
right.
just believe that this is the requirement.
No, certainly not enough.
And it's not when you work up to it, it's day one. This is like marriage. The commitment is full day one. That's when you say, till death do us part, we're one. You don't ease in. Tell you what, I'll get rid of my girlfriends as the months go by, and I'll actually sleep in the same house as you as we go along, and maybe we'll share. No, it's day one. Boom. This is day one surrender is the Christian life. I think that's missed.
I have to find this video now because...
You haven't found it yet?
Well...
Boy, you're a slow video finder.
I need to...
Hey, I got something...
That's because I don't have an Apple phone, so...
You are going to remedy that, though.
But I will find it, and I will get it to him here in the next few minutes.
Well, hey, we have a video. I'm going to show this. Hold that thought. I want to show you a video, and I'm showing it to you because it's a short. That's what they call these, shorts. Okay, and all the young hipsters know what they are. They're all over Instagram and YouTube, and the Google, and we got a guy in the church named Elijah who good blue collar man, working man, has a great family, and he says, "Oh, I started putting together these shorts. You know, he just does them on his phone." And I said, "Send me one." So he sent me one. I just saw it for the first time yesterday. So I want us to take a look at it. And this is from our own church member, Elijah Newton, who just used his phone to take a sermon and just, I guess he was bored at work, and this is what he did. Play it whenever you're ready, Cruiser.
You walk in here and see some kid who's got everything pierced you can pierce. Bones through both nose holes and tattooed up the everything and green hair sticking this way and that way. See someone who was lied to by the devil and got into the cult of transitioning and now is de-tranning and is a woman with a beard. Never be ashamed of Jesus' friends. Rich, poor, tall, short, young, old. We're all sinners, and he makes us all brand new. The church is not supposed to be multicultural. It's supposed to be a new culture, taken from all the other ones.
All right, thank you. That kind of cut off quickly. Did it supposed to cut off that quick or what?
That was all we had.
Okay, that's fine. That's cool. No, I didn't play that just for the clip. That's obviously one of my sermons. I sound like a hick when I talk. That's why I don't listen to myself. You know, I've lived all over this country. You want to know what accent I have? I don't even know. When I'm around people from New Jersey, I begin to talk in a more cut-off kind of way because that's how they talk there. But I grew up in the South, believe it or not. So my true talking language is much more relaxed, much slangier. Slangier? But because that's where I grew up. But I had a mother from California, father from Pennsylvania, and I've been all over. But I sound like an uneducated hick, and I guess that's just, I'm going to have to live with that. But that's not the point. The reason I played that is because I was so amazed at what you can do now. So I told Elijah, listen, we need, if you can do that stuff, let's you make something good like that, send it to our tech team, and maybe they'll put it out on the Harvest. We have Harvest social media, and it's work. Our tech team does great work, but we stretch them so far that there are a lot of creative goals they have that they don't have time to work on. And so Elijah's doing this. If you are in our church or not in our church and you like to play around and with these kinds of things that I'm never going to, I call them these kinds of things. I don't even remember what they're called. Get in touch with us. We'd love to see them and maybe put them on our own. What do we have? Instagram, on Facebook?
Yeah, we're on a lot of social media platforms, and we want to do more of it. So I guess you're talking about, we're crowdsourcing right now.
We're crowdsourcing.
Crowdsourcing.
There's no money in it for you.
No,
there's no money in it for us.
But
we don't get paid to create videos.
Pride of knowing that your video,
or the satisfaction. Pride just said, quiet satisfaction knowing you're helping. If we want to get the gospel out,
you know what I meant by pride.
I know we want to get the gospel out. Well, since you were correcting everyone on the way they use jealousy,
you're right.
We do want to get the gospel out in the way you young folks like to see it these days on the Google. We want to use every aspect from the radio to the record player, as President Biden would say. So anyway, I jumped from death to self to crowdsourcing. So die to yourself and make us some nice short videos.
I like that. We could use the help.
We could use the help. We're out of time. We didn't have an Ask the Pastors question today, did we?
We're out of questions.
I guess
officially out of questions.
No one's listening to us, or they don't listen to the end, or they know more than us. Probably the last one. They all know more than us.
Or they find our answers
insufficient. How about we'll have answers to the pastors? If you have answers to the pastor's questions, send them in and we'll read them on the podcast.
I had somebody literally this week say, you should do like a question and answer on the podcast, like have an episode where people just write in questions and you answer questions. And I said,
there's a great idea.
I said, you must not always get to the end of the podcast. And they said, no, actually, most of the times I don't. It's like, okay, because we do that at the end of every single podcast.
Yeah. Next he's going to say, and you know what? You should have a segment on the Bible. Maybe a cultural segment. They never make it past the first 5 minutes. There is an order to this, whether you guys have noticed. We start with ideas from the last sermon.
Yeah, sermon or theology or
from the last sermon that I preached from when I'm sitting in this chair.
And wherever that goes. Like today it went to covetousness from
Private property and animal was the rights.
Yeah.
Then we went to our Bible study on Luke, which we're preaching through just so our brains are in the same book. And then we go to our cultural section, which we didn't have today.
We didn't. Cultural commentary, current events.
And then questions of the pastor.
Questions of the pastor.
We could change it. If you have other sections, perhaps you want our cooking tips or fashion tips. We could do that.
Pass. All right. Love you, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thanks for tuning in.